This is The Stro, and you listen to 3 Count Wrestling.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hey, Stro, how you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing real well. Good to have you on the program.
A pleasure to be here.
So let me ask you this question. You guys send me a lot of press releases via email, and I always am sure to put them up. ACPW. What exactly is ACPW? Do you run this promotion, or are you just affiliated closely with it?
Actually, it's one of the many promotions I compete for. I wrestle for many promotions now around the United States and overseas on occasion, so it's just one of the many that I compete with.
And where are they located out of?
They're located out of North Carolina, basically out of eastern North Carolina.
And I heard that they just released some kind of a DVD of the Legend show.
Yeah, that was from this past November.
Who do you compete with on that, just out of curiosity?
In that particular show, I was involved in an 8-man tag match. It was Team Stro against Team Moretti, and with one of my partners being a former WCW WWE legend and the Barbarian.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of great matches on that show. Buff Bagwell, Rick Steiner, and a host of others.
Wow, that's a pretty big name. We're pretty much going to go, I guess you could say, out of order as far as a timeline would be concerned. My first question to you would be, was David Arquette's winning the WCW title the reason you left WCW?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I would just say there was quite a few reasons why I decided not to stick around with the company. I mean, first of all, my 3-year contract was up with the company, and the fact that, financially the company was in kind of dire straits, more or less, and there really was, the future of the company looked kind of bleak even back at the time, and this is like right before, Vince bought out the company, so it was just like that, and, there were certain things going on that it didn't look like there wasn't much of a future left for the company.
Right.
My contract was up, so that's why I pretty much, didn't resign.
Yeah. Sid was...
The David Arquette thing goes, he was stuck in a situation that really wasn't his fault. It was just a matter of the bookers at the time putting him in that situation. I've met the guy. He's a very nice guy, and he's very good at what he does. And he donated a lot of his, the money he earned with the company back to charity, from what I understood. So, I thought...
I had heard that he actually gave a lot of that money to Brian Pillman's wife.
Exactly. So,
which is a really good. I think, as GDP put it, if you didn't know it, you should know it.
That's it. So, I thought that was a very classy thing to do. So, it was just a lot of factors that led into basically the bottom line is a very bleak future with a company that was dying. So.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you were under contract for 3 years. Now, I remember only starting to see you in the fall of 1999. So what were you doing with the company for the rest of that time period?
Well, I was used sporadically off and on, house shows, TV tapings in Orlando, and different places, that type of thing. And I really didn't get into full swing until the last, say, year and a half with the company on a full-time basis.
Oh, okay.
And it was interesting enough, I signed with the company as Gorgeous George the Third, and then, which I've been doing so for many years, and then then the Maestro was created, midway.
Okay. I know you and Eddie Guerrero crossed paths at WCW briefly. Any thoughts on Eddie Guerrero? And any stories you'd like to share about the late, great Eddie Guerrero?
Well, Eddie Guerrero was he was a great man. Him and his whole family are great people. And praying with him and his nephew Chavo and, Hector, Uncle Hector and everybody, with that family, it was a big honor to meet, and they really, it helped me out through a tough time, because right before my WCW run, my ex-girlfriend passed away from a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
And so it was kind of ironic that here I am with one of the biggest companies in the world, getting the push and the run, but at the same time, the most miserable I've ever been in my life. And, with guys like that, praying with them and with their support, it really meant a lot to me. And to see it was very sad to see Eddie pass away because he was very much a big inspiration to me. Being in the business.
Well,
especially what he's been through to get there.
I mean, I appreciate your comments, Eddie Guerrero. Some people have, some hard feelings. Sometimes they don't wish to share a lot of the stuff that they experienced with Eddie, but it's good to get your thoughts on that. Was there ever any talks working with ECW?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I was kind of interested in working with the company right after my WCW run, but it's kind of weird how things happened because, both WCW and ECW in a similar time frame kind of just like...
Yeah, died.
Yeah.
I mean,
petered out,
it was like a terrible time to be a wrestling fan. I just remember the night that Vince McMahon appeared on Nitro, and he cut that promo that just was miserable. I just remember thinking to myself, that's it. And this could be the end of everything that we've seen. And thank God for the indie promotions that you guys are a part of, because without them, I think a lot of people that just had to be bastardized by watching WWE TV wouldn't be wrestling fans anymore.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you mentioned that you came in as Gorgeous George, and then the Maestro character came to be. Do you have any background in music?
Background music?
Background in music.
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, music and theater. Growing up in high school and college, and so it was kind of ironic that I came up with the office and I came up with the Maestro character because of the musical background and everything.
Is there any interest in possibly pursuing a career as a musician like Chris Jericho has since leaving wrestling?
I don't know, off and on. I've always been into so many things. I just started with the acting the past couple of years, small parts in TV and film. So it's like
any notable appearances?
Well, a couple episodes of One Tree Hill last year. There may be a chance I'm doing another movie for Lifetime.
Wow.
Coming out, and a couple episodes of a new TV series on Fox that friends of mine, producers at One Tree Hill, hooked me up with. And so, there's a lot of projects in the air that I'm working on right now, as far as that goes.
Huh?
What sort of musical preferences do you prefer? Like what style of music do you play? And I guess, what's your favorite kind of music?
Well, I just I grew up playing classical piano. Learning how to play the classics.
I guess that came in handy during the Maestro again, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I had to brush up on a few things. I was kind of rusty, but and that too. Playing in front of a live crowd, which Nitro had at one time. Playing in front of 20-some thousand people every Monday night or Thursday, whatever. It was just you had to really bang the instrument to get any sound out of it because the crowd noise would drown out the sound if you played softly. So.
Sure.
And
plus, if you're calling
he wrote the theme music for me, and he was about the only guy in the back that really knew how to play, music-wise. So.
Plus, if you're calling yourself the Maestro, you have to be pretty damn good at it. You can't screw up the keys or anything.
Oh no.
That's like calling yourself. I think the pun that I always use whenever anybody makes a gimmick that doesn't fit is they called Sean Stasiak Perfection the first show out, and he had one move to do to Kurt Hennig, and he botched it.
No.
So it's like, oh man, that name doesn't really fit then, does it?
Well, my version of the Maestro didn't really come out to later on my run, where it was just like I envisioned the Maestro being more of a family opera type character. And it came, and that vision came out more, in the feuds I had with the Cat and both Bagwell, etc. The more dark, demented side of the Maestro came out, which I had more envisioned them out to be.
Do you think that they maybe went in too much of a comedy role with it at times?
They, in the beginning, I believe, but I think once they got into the role of having him having a dark, twisted side about him, like almost like a split personality, if you will. That they really, the fans really started to identify with the character.
Well, speaking of the Maestro gimmick, what was Alicia Webb / Symphony like to work with?
She was a very nice gal, gal to work with, and which it's ironically you should say that because we just recently got reacquainted, which I haven't talked to her much since leaving the company. So it was nice to get reacquainted with her and everything, and she's doing great, and her and her family are doing fine, and so.
That's great. Is she still in the business?
Well, she took a hiatus for a while. She's got a 2-year-old son, from what I understand.
Oh wow.
But she's still looking great, and she's staying in good health. So
Yeah, the last
really
time
happy to hear that.
The last time I remember seeing her was in TNA for a short run, but yeah, ever since then, I haven't seen much of her. Was there ever any talk of going to TNA?
Yeah, matter of fact, the interest is still there. I mean, and there have been talk with myself and some of the people involved, but nothing in concrete yet. I guess I could say the same for WWE, but I mean, in this business, never say never.
I mean,
you never know. I mean, it's all about the timing thing. So.
I mean, I'm sure they could fit a piano inside that 6-sided ring if they wanted to do some sort of a comedy act.
Let me ask a serious question here, though. You went from the Maestro, and now you just call yourself The Stro.
Mm-hmm.
Is that to avoid copyrights, or is it to sound more hip, or what's the story behind that?
Well, actually, the fans, after my run with WCW, I've kind of went back to my roots, more or less, from my wrestling background. Because I do have extensive amateur wrestling background and submission background as well with UWFI in Japan.
Oh wow!
So which I used to compete when I first started the business, and I kind of wanted to be more of a wrestler more than anything else. So I mean, and I had a lot of friends of mine that went overseas to fight the war with Iraq.
Oh wow!
So I've kind of adopted a more patriotic thing to my character.
Yeah, I noticed you have the American flag thing on there, which I really like.
And I've got a couple new finishers, to the matches. Like one is one of the submissions I do now is called the Liberty Lock, which is almost like it's a variation of Nagata Lock 2005. It's being done by Yuji Nagata in Japan.
Wow.
And it's almost like similar to a crossface, but he wears the guy's arm down, but then you lock the other head and arm together.
Yeah, I've seen him do that before.
And work back. And my other big finisher I'm doing it's called the SBD, which is a bear hug DDT.
Bear hug DDT. Wow. I'm trying to think how that would work.
Right, I lock a guy in a bear hug position, hook the guy's head, and just drop straight down.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome maneuver.
I've heard of the Stroinator. So, I mean, you definitely don't mind getting in there and going a little bit to the extreme side.
Oh, yeah. Thing is, I've wrestled different styles. I've worked, different types of matches, different styles, etc. And now I've got a lot of size on me and muscle, and I'm a lot stronger now, so I'm able to do more power moves and execute maneuvers such as the SPD more or less than I would before. So.
Excellent. Well, somebody that posts on our forums a bit is, I believe her name is Nadia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she posts on our forums a lot. She mentioned that you trained her, I believe. Tell us a little bit about this girl, and do you think we might see big things from her in the future?
Oh, I've been really blessed to have some great students that come from my wrestling school out of North Carolina, and she's definitely one of the brighter ones. She's definitely a rare breed in the business.
She looks like she can go. She looks pretty tough.
Very strong, and she's young. She's very strong. She's very aggressive. She does a lot of submission wrestling, as well as high-impact maneuvers. I mean, we're talking a gal that can do a choke slam and a black hole slam all in one.
Wow.
I mean, and she wrestles guys and gals.
So that's impressive. The only problem that she might face is with the WWE trying to make supermodels out of or wrestlers out of supermodels. Do you think that might be tough for her?
I definitely wouldn't class her as a supermodel. She's just a female monster. I mean, but the thing is, I wouldn't say she's like real heavy set with it either. She's pretty well proportioned. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's like a modern day Amazon.
Wow.
I mean, if you can imagine a female Bradshaw.
That's frightening, actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say wow.
I mean, and she has an awesome presence about her. I mean, it's like a cross between Sting and The Undertaker look, for a female.
Wow.
I mean, if you go to the website, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's geocities.com/NaughtyWeb.
Well, do you think we might see, do you think that she's going to be best suited in Japan or here in the United States?
Well, with her style and build and her ability, I think she can pretty much pave the way anywhere she goes.
Oh.
You know, and speaking of Vince, you remember, not too long ago, you had Bull Nakano and Medusa.
Right.
And they had some great matches over there. So, I mean, she could be the one thing that could be different up there with Vince as well as TNA. Because, I mean, this gal is a rare breed. I mean, you don't see too many gals that have her strength, her power, her youth, and ability.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of, like the late 90s, there was kind of a boom for larger women with, like, a bigger build, like Nicole Bass in China, and then Ronda Singh came into WCW. So, I mean, there's always a chance that, the wrestling industry as far as the women's side could, flip. The scary thing is she's all natural. I mean, she's naturally strong and young, and then she's got many years ahead of her. And so, and when they call her the Queen of Pain, like it's a nickname, they're not kidding.
Oh man,
she's definitely one to look out for sure.
Absolutely. Well, you're mentioning Jimmy Valiant's new book, which I'm not even going to try to say the title of because I have to do an impression when I do it. So instead, I'll just say, what is mentioned about you in the book, and how do you get along, or how do you know Jimmy Valiant?
Oh, Jimmy, I've known Jimmy forever. It seems like we've wrestled so many shows, and he's always had good advice for me through the years. And he always rips me in the back about working out with the ab wheel and training, and doing exercise before the matches and stuff. But I mean, he's a great guy, and just to know such a legend in the business, somebody that's been there and done that and forgotten more than a lot of us ever know, it's a real treat. And the fact that he was nice enough to put me in his book, it really meant a lot. I mean, there's quite a few guys that know in the business that have books out now that didn't even mention me, which I won't even go into that. They owe me one. Wow. But that's cool. But I mean, I just thought it was a real treat that Jimmy would do that. It was awful nice of him.
Oh, yeah.
There was a long-standing rumor that you were related to the original Gorgeous George Wagner. Is there any truth to this?
Absolutely. He was my granduncle.
Wow.
He and my grandfather were good friends. They both used to amateur box. And he knew guys like Cassius Clay, who we know knows Muhammad Ali, James Brown, etc., which ironically was when, I met James Brown, when in my WCW run, it was like, wow, this guy, you knew my granduncle too, so.
Yeah. He's been around a long time.
No doubt. Well, what a nice guy. What a class act guy he was.
It's really a shame that, I mean, I know the thing was supposed to be a surprise, but I got to believe that if they had hyped his appearance a little bit, it would have spiked the buy rate a little bit.
Oh, by far. I mean, when he came into that building, I mean...
Nobody expected it, really.
The reaction, the pop he got was unbelievable.
Yes, I mean, the Cat had always been talking about James Brown, but nobody ever expected to actually see him.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Matter of fact, our feud, even though, I mean, I wouldn't say we had, like, Matt Wrestling Classics, but the entertainment factor alone in our feud was great. I mean, it was really talked about a lot.
I remember being Matt, when we were talking about interviewing you, or Matt was anyway, he was talking about a tape he has, and I actually have the same one taped. It was the February 14th edition of Nitro, and you guys were the second to last segment on that show, right before, I believe it was Hogan and Flair, it might have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys were getting a bit of a high-profile position there. Yeah,
it was really very much talked about, and.
Do you ever see Ernest Miller anymore?
I haven't talked to him since leaving the company. I've heard from other people about how he's doing, but I mean, I haven't really talked to him.
His name just came up to me about 2 days ago from somebody who's like, "Would you like to interview him?" I'm like, "Sure, love to." But
he had a really good run there at the end of WCW. I mean, they really gave him a good chance there. I guess you could say the dying months at WCW. He really got over with the fans. And then when he came into WWE, his initial pop was really good. I mean, so, back when you and him were doing your initial stuff, I mean, you both had a lot of talent as far as entertaining goes. It's just good to see that both of you are still out there working.
Oh, by far. I mean, it was, Ernest was great to work with, and it was, I thought at one time we really had a great thing going with the company.
Sure. James, do you have any more questions?
Actually, I just was going to send you over to the Award Association, Mr. Hoover.
Okay. First one I have for you.
Just so you know, word associations are basically, you don't have to give a one-word answer. If you have a story about a guy, that's fine, too. Does that sound good? We'll just
sounds great.
Okay.
First one I got for you is Shark Boy.
Great talent and a hard worker.
The next one I got for you is Buff Bagwell.
Buff Bagwell, very entertaining, and definitely one of the most charismatic in WCW.
If I could just throw a question about him in there.
Okay.
My girlfriend, who I mentioned before we went on the air, came in. I was watching an old tape of WCW, and she never watches wrestling ever, and she knew Buff Bagwell. So I'm just thinking to myself, if this guy's got a high Q rating, why do you think he doesn't have a job in the WWE or TNA?
Go figure.
I know. I mean, if people who don't watch wrestling know who you are, then you're of some value.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, instead of trying to, WWE's constantly trying to find stars and trying to make stars. Same thing with TNA. Well, this guy is a star, and well, he's sitting on the sidelines. So you never know.
That's it.
You never know what can happen. Next one I got
never
for
say
you.
never, right?
Yeah. Next one I got for you is Brian Christopher.
Brian Christopher. Jerry Lawler's son, and definitely, always a solid wrestler in the ring.
Barbarian.
One of the true monsters in our industry who I've competed with several times and still competing with. As a matter of fact, I have some matches coming up with Barb. Matter of fact, we're doing a Texas Death match for the Ricky Morton benefit November 2nd in Alcoa, Tennessee.
Hold on just a second there. Ricky Morton benefit?
Uh-huh.
If I don't sound like an idiot for asking this, what's going on with Ricky?
Well, Ricky, unfortunately, has been arrested for child support issues.
Uh-huh.
And there's a show going on to help raise money to get him out of the situation. And in Alcoa, Tennessee, near Knoxville, some of the TNA talent scheduled to be there, Tracy Smothers, a whole list of others, including us.
The only reason that I asked that is because about 2 weeks after we interviewed him, I saw on the news boards, Ricky Morton arrested, and I went, holy crap, that's kind of weird, but yeah.
It's a real sad situation. And
yeah, he spoke of Barbarian very positively. He said that he was one of the favorite guys to work with.
Oh, yeah, by far. Barb's definitely been one of my toughest opponents, and he's as solid as they come, and I have a match with him, Texas Death match with him that night, November 2nd, and then November 3rd, Spindle. And it's just, we've had a long-going feud in the Carolinas, so. And Tennessee.
Sure, go ahead. Okay. The next one I got for you is Vince Russo.
Misunderstood writer.
Say the same thing about Ed Ferrara?
I suppose you can put them in the same category. I mean, they had vision and they had creativity. It's just I'm not sure if it was right for actually for WCW at the time, because that company was like a whole new world compared to where they came from.
Okay. How about Jake the Snake Roberts?
Master psychologist, one of the best psychologists in the history of this business.
Oh yeah.
And one of my best friends, great man and great friend.
There's a rumor going around that he's a little unhappy with the way that his DVD came out from the WWE. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, it really wouldn't surprise me, knowing Jake, because Jake is what you see is what you get with Jake.
Yeah.
Jake doesn't pull any punches, and he helped a lot of guys out in the business. The Undertaker, Steve Austin, myself, Raven, Diamond Dallas Page, and a list of others. So, I mean, we all have a mutual friend in him.
Absolutely. And I interviewed him once, and literally he kept asking me to come back and do another and another and another. The whole thing ended up being like a 4-hour interview. That's all on mine right now. So
wow.
he's like, holy crap! Thank you for thinking enough of me to give you that much of your time.
Oh, I mean, he's incredible. His mind. It's a shame he's been through what he's been through, because if he had just kept away from all the demons and the bad things in his life, it's scary what he could have done for the business.
Well, I mean, I know he always wanted to be a booker, and honestly, I sat down sometimes and I think, They said all be different if Jake was booking. Like we were having a conversation about the whole Cena and John and Kurt Angle feud about 3 weeks ago on the show, and I was saying if Jake was booking, they wouldn't be wrestling on Raw right before the pay-per-view. Jake
was a master making the little things mean volumes.
Yep.
And when we were tagging together in Mexico, I mean, it was just amazing just to watch the guy and to see how he carried himself, the way he did his promos, our matches in the ring, etc. I mean, we learned something. We would talk, for example, all night about ideas, be creative, and everything that's happening in the business. And next thing you know, the sun's coming up 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
The man's mind's incredible.
Hoover?
Well, I'm not sure how much more time you have, but I have 3 more names for you.
Okay.
First one I have for you is Nelson Royal.
One of the greatest cruiserweight champions ever, and one of the guys that was instrumental in breaking me into business.
Okay. Eric Bischoff.
Very, very shrewd businessman, and the guy that hired me for WCW.
You can't say too many bad words about him. He hired
No.
you.
I had my trial match with Chavo Guerrero Jr., and it's a phenomenal match, by the way. You can't go wrong with Chavo.
No, you can't.
And
I think it's kind of cool how he's adopted a bit of a, undefeated role ever since the death of Eddie, because the fans just have so much respect for him now.
And then at that match, and a couple of the road agents at the time were like, well, this match this, but every road agent has different things to tell you, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Some like this, some don't. You should have done this, you should have done that, which is fine and good. Criticism's great. But then when Eric Bischoff came and said, hey, welcome aboard, everybody, next thing I know, I'm turned around, everybody was shaking my hand. Congratulations, and I owe Eric that much.
Well, the final one I have for you, and you worked with him a little bit, was David Flair.
He's a very nice man, and I still think he has a heck of a future ahead of him. It's just at the time, considering, he has some awful, awful big shoes to fill.
Yes, he does. He still does have big shoes to fill as well.
No doubt. But I think that, he's maturing all the time in the business, and I still think he has a lot to offer. So I think the best is still yet to come for David.
Do you think that David will stick around and make this happen?
Oh, yeah, by far. I just saw him at a show Friday in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And he's looking great.
That's good to hear.
He's looking more and more like his old man all the time.
Wow, that's good news. Well, once again, we can't thank you enough for sticking around all this time with us, and we appreciate it. And if you don't mind, can we just ask you for a little favor?
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to collect a bunch of liners for these guys that says 3 Count Wrestling.
Uh-huh.
Would you mind saying this is the Stro and you're listening to 3 Count Wrestling?
Yeah, sure, whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm recording, so how about in 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is the Stro, and you listen to 3 Count Wrestling.